senator as well. Here are just a few examples. Watch.
Never support, never have, and never will support any effort to grant blanket legalization amnesty to folks who have entered or stayed in this country illegally.
First of all, earned path to citizenship is basically code for amnesty. It's what they call it. And the reality of it is this. It is unfair to the people that have legally entered this country to create an alternative pathway for individuals who entered illegally and knowingly did so.
You cannot grant amnesty. If the American people see us grant amnesty, they will never again believe in legal immigration. They will never again support it. And that's wrong for our country, bad for our future.
Within 2 years of getting elected, you were co-sponsoring legislation to create a path to citizenship. In your words, amnesty. Haven't you already proven that you cannot be trusted on this issue?
No, because if you look at the quote, and it's very specific, and it says blanket amnesty. I do not support blanket amnesty.
But you went on from
I do not support amnesty.
You said more than that, sir.
No, I said I do not support blanket legalization.
You said earned path to citizenship is basically code for amnesty. You supported earned path to citizenship.
It absolutely has been. And at the time and the context of that was in 2009 and 2010, where the last effort for legalization was an effort done in the Senate. It was an effort led by several people that provided almost an instant path with very little obstacles moving forward. What I've always said is this issue does need to be solved. They've been talking about this issue for 30 years, and nothing ever happens. And I'm going to tell you exactly how we're going to deal with it when I am president. Number one, we're going to keep ISIS out of America. If we don't know who you are or why you're coming, you will not get into the United States. Number two, we are going to enforce our immigration laws. I am the son and the grandson of immigrants, and I know that securing our borders is not anti-immigrant, and we will do it. We will hire 20,000 new border agents instead of 20,000 new IRS agents. We will finish the 700 miles of fencing and walls our nation needs. We'll have mandatory E-Verify, a mandatory entry-exit tracking system. And until all of that is in place and all of that is working and we can prove to the people of this country that illegal immigration is under control, nothing else is going to happen. We are not going to round up and deport 12 million people, but we're not going to go around handing out citizenship cards either. There will be a process. We will see what the American people are willing to support, but it will not be unconstitutional executive orders like the ones Barack Obama has forced on.
Governor Bush, do you agree that Senator Rubio has not reversed himself on his immigration promise?
Well, I'm kind of confused because he was the sponsor of the Gang of Eight bill that did require a bunch of thresholds, but it ultimately allowed for citizenship over an extended period of time. I mean, that's a fact. And he asked me to support that. And I supported him because I think people, when you're elected, you need to do things. And he led the charge to finally fix this immigration problem that has existed now for, as Marco says, for 30 years. And then he cut and run because it wasn't popular amongst conservatives, I guess. Here's what I believe. And I wrote a book about this called Immigration Wars. You can get it at $2.99 on Amazon. It's not a bestseller, I can promise you. There won't be any, you can get it. It's affordable for everybody. We should have a path to legal status for the 12 million people that are here illegally. It means come out from the shadows, pay a fine, earn legal status by working, by paying taxes, learning English, not committing crimes, and earn legal status where you're not cutting in front of the line for people that are patiently waiting outside. That is I think that's the conservative consensus, pragmatic approach to how to solve this problem.
Go ahead, Senator.
It's interesting that Jeb mentions the book. That is the book where you changed your position on immigration, because you used to support a path to citizenship.
So did you.
Well, but you changed in the book.
So did you, Marco.
You wrote a book where you changed your position from you wrote a book where you changed your position from a path to citizenship to a path to legalization. And the bottom line is this: we are not going to be able to do anything on this issue until we first bring illegal immigration under control. The American people have been told for 30 years they're going to enforce the border, they're going to build the wall, and it never gets built, and it never happens. It is very clear there will be no progress on this issue in any way, shape, or form until you prove to the people of this country that illegal immigration is under control. And when I'm president, we are going to bring it under control once and for all after 30 years of talking about it.
Marco, he brought up my name. I have supported a consensus approach to solving this problem wherever it came up. And then 2007, it almost passed when my brother was president of the United States. A bipartisan approach got close. Barack Obama actually had the poison pill to stop it then. And when you led the charge with the Gang of Eight, I supported it because you asked me to. I think it's important for people in elected office to try to forge consensus to solve problems. There's never going to be a perfect bill. But But when you didn't do that and you asked people to support, you shouldn't cut and run.
But Megan,
you should stick with it. And that's exactly what happened. He cut and run, and that's a tragedy because
Megan,
now it's harder and harder to actually solve this problem.
There's not going to be any consensus on this issue until we enforce our immigration laws. That is abundantly clear. No, you are not going to be able to ram down the throat of the American people your approach. The only way we're going to be able to move forward after 2 migratory crises with minors, after 2 unconstitutional executive orders, the only way forward on this issue is to first bring illegal immigration under control. And until that happens, there's not going to be any consensus on this issue.
Let's move on. Senator Cruz, when Senator Rubio proposed that bill creating a path to citizenship, you proposed an amendment. It would have allowed for legalization but not citizenship. Yes, it would. Pressed last month on why you supported legalization, you claimed that you didn't. Right, like you just did. I saw that. You argued that this was just a poison pill amendment, basically something designed to kill the bill and not actually get it through. But that is not, however, how it sounded at the time. Watch.
I want this bill to be voted down. I don't want immigration reform to fail. I want immigration reform to pass. I believe if this amendment were to pass, the chances of this bill passing into law would increase dramatically. I believe if the amendments I introduced were adopted, that the bill would pass. And my effort in introducing them was to find a solution that reflected common ground and that fixed the problem. If the proponents of this bill actually demonstrate a commitment not to politics, not to campaigning all the time, but to actually fixing this problem, to finding a middle ground, that would fix the problem and also allow for those 11 million people who are here illegally a legal status with citizenship off the table.
Was that all an act? It was pretty convincing.
You know, the amendment you're talking about is one sentence. It's 38 words. Anyone can go online at tedcruz.org and read exactly what it said. In those 38 words, it said anyone here illegally is permanently ineligible for citizenship. It didn't say a word about legalization.
But the bill allowed both. The bill you were amending allowed citizenship and legalization.
But Megan, the bill was 1,000 pages. I introduced a series of amendments, each designed to fix problems in the bill. The fact that each amendment didn't fix every problem didn't mean that I supported the rest of the bill. And I'll tell you who supported my amendment. Jeff Sessions, the strongest opponent of amnesty in the United States Congress. And he did so because taking citizenship off the table was important, and it revealed the hypocrisy of the proponents of this bill who were looking for votes. Listen, we can solve immigration. We just heard an argument back and forth that we can't solve immigration. I have a detailed immigration plan that is on my website, tedcruz.org. It was designed with Iowa's own Congressman Steve King and Jeff Sessions, and we have the tools in federal law to do this now. We can build the fence. We can triple the Border Patrol. We can end sanctuary cities by cutting off funding to them. We can end welfare for those here illegally. And what is missing is the political will, because too many Democrats and sadly too many Republicans don't want to solve this problem. If I am elected president, we will secure the borders, and we will end illegal immigration.
Senator Paul, you know how Washington works. Do you buy that?
I was there and I saw the debate. I saw Ted Cruz say, we'll take citizenship off the table and then the bill will pass, and I'm for the bill. The bill would involve legalization. He can't have it both ways. But what is particularly insulting, though, is that he is the king of saying, oh, you're for amnesty. Everybody's for amnesty except for Ted Cruz. But it's a falseness, and that's an authenticity problem, that everybody he knows is not as perfect as him because we're all for amnesty. I was for legalization. I think, frankly, if you have border security, you can have legalization. So was Ted, but now he says it wasn't so. That's not true.
Go ahead, sir.
You know, John Adams famously said, facts are stubborn things. The facts are very, very simple. When that battle was waged, my friend Senator Rubio chose to stand with Barack Obama and Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer and support amnesty. And I stood alongside Jeff Sessions and Steve King. We led the fight against amnesty. And if you want to know who's telling the truth, you should look and ask people like Jeff Sessions and Steve King and Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin, all of whom say, as Jeff Sessions said responding to these false attacks just recently in Alabama, he said if it wasn't for Ted Cruz, the Gang of Eight Rubio-Schumer bill would have passed, but because Ted stood up and helped lead the effort, millions rose up to kill it.
Senator Rubio, even Chuck Schumer, your co-sponsor of that bill, agrees with Ted Cruz on this.
I understand, but let me respond. That was mentioned in this answer, and so I'm going to respond on this way. This is the lie that Ted's campaign is built on, and Rand touched upon it. That he's the most conservative guy and everyone else is a rhino. The truth is, Ted, throughout this campaign, you've been willing to say or do anything in order to get votes. Ted, you worked for George W. Bush's campaigns. You helped design George W. Bush's immigration policy. And then when you got to the Senate, you did an interview with CBS News, that wasn't even part of the video, where you said on the issue of people that are here illegally, we can reach a compromise. And then in the committee, you said, I want to bring people out of the shadows. Now, you want to trump on immigration. But you can't, we're not going to beat Hillary Clinton with someone who's willing to say or do anything to win an election.
Go ahead, Senator Cruz.
You know, I like Marco. He's very charming. He's very smooth. But the facts are simple. When he ran for election in the state of Florida, he told the people of Florida, if you elect me, I will lead the fight against amnesty. When I ran in Texas, I told the people of Texas, if you elect me, I will lead the fight against amnesty. We both made the identical promises. But when we came to Washington, we made a different choice. Marco made the choice to go the direction of the major donors to support amnesty because he thought it was politically advantageous. I honored my commitments, and as president, I will honor every commitment that I make to the men and women of this country.
Go ahead, Governor Christie.
I want to ask the people in the audience. Like, I'm standing here, I watched the video of Senator Cruz. I watched the video of Senator Rubio. I heard what they said, and this is why you need to send someone from outside of Washington to Washington. I feel like I need a Washington to English dictionary converter, right? I mean, I heard what they both said. I saw it on the video. And the fact is, this is what makes a difference when you're a governor. You can change your mind. Ted could change his mind. Marco could change his mind. It's perfectly legal in this country to change your mind. But when you're a governor, you have to admit it. You can't hide behind parliamentary tricks. That's the difference, and that's the kind of leader we need in the White House. Stop the Washington Bull, and let's get things done.
All right. Let's get to a YouTube question. This is a question from a YouTube creator with over 2 million subscribers. Watch.
I'm Dulce Candy, a YouTube creator who immigrated to the United States from Mexico when I was a little girl. Since then, I am proud to say that I served in the armed forces in Iraq, became a citizen, and I am now an entrepreneur. There are many immigrants who contribute positively to the American economy, but some of the comments in the campaign make us question our place in this country. If America does not seem like a welcoming place for immigrant entrepreneurs, will the American economy suffer?
Dr. Carson, that one's for you.
Oh, okay, great. Well, as I said before, we are a land of immigrants, but we have to be intelligent about the way that we form our immigration policies. And that's one of the reasons that I have called on us to declare war on the Islamic State, because we need to reorient our immigration policies and our visa policies for people who are coming into this country, because there are many people out there who want to destroy us. Now, I recognize that the vast majority of people coming in here probably are not those kinds of people, but that's not good enough. If you've got 10 people coming to your house and you know one of them is a terrorist, you're probably going to keep them all out. You know, we probably have to figure out a way to make sure that we keep America safe.
Go ahead, sir.
That beautiful young woman who's an entrepreneur who served in the military, first of all, is deserving of our respect for service in the military and the fact that she's an entrepreneur. And we should be a welcoming nation Our identity is not based on race or ethnicity. It's based on a set of shared values. That's American citizenship. And Dulce Candy, pretty cool name actually, that is now an entrepreneur of the YouTube, is part of that American experience, and we should celebrate it as conservatives. That's what we believe in. You can deal with the threat of terror and also recognize that this country should be aspirational across the board.
Yeah, and I think that's the false choice. That's the false choice in this whole debate about immigration. Of course we're going to be a nation of immigrants. By the way, no nation on earth is more generous than America is. Every single year, close to 1 million people immigrate to the United States legally. There's no nation on earth that comes close to that number. I think the only argument is, aren't we a sovereign country? Are we not allowed to choose who comes in, when they come in, and how they come in? And that's not what's happening now. I think the other problem is we have a legal immigration system that's outdated. It is primarily based on whether you have family members living here. In the 21st century, it has to be more of a merit-based system. And that is why our legal immigration system is in need of modernization. And we will always celebrate legal immigration like Dulce's great.
All right, we're moving on.
Gentlemen, we're going to turn now to what we call electability, issues that you're either facing in the primaries or issues that you're certainly going to face in a general election. So you may not be altogether unhappy if you're not included in this round. Senator Cruz, you pride yourself on standing up to the D.C. cartel, but as we've seen to a certain degree tonight, there's a price for standing up to the D.C. cartel. 13 Republican senators have endorsed other candidates. None have endorsed you. You twice last year, you asked for a colleague to second a motion, a routine courtesy on the Senate floor, and no senator would do it. Top GOP officials worry that if you're at the top of the ticket, some officials, that not only will you lose the White House, but it will tank the ticket all the way down the line. Question is, does your style sometimes get in the way of your ability to get things done, sir?
Well, Chris, you are exactly right that I am not the candidate of career politicians in Washington. And I'll tell you, the endorsements that I am proud of are the over 200,000 volunteers across this country who have signed up to volunteer for our campaign. The endorsements that I am proud of are leading conservatives like Iowa's own Congressman Steve King, who is a national co-chairman of my campaign. The endorsements that I'm proud of are conservative leaders like Dr. James Dobson, and over 700,000 contributions nationwide, people going to our website, tedcruz.org. This is a grassroots campaign. And you know, when I ran for Senate in Texas, I told the people of Texas that I'm not going there to go along to get along. Washington is broken. And the people I have been accountable to every single day in the Senate are the 27 million Texans who I represent, and I made a promise to them that I make to you today, which is if I am elected, every single day I will do two things: tell the truth and do what I said I would do.
Thank you, sir.
Governor Bush, poll after poll shows you running among the worst in your party against Hillary Clinton. Even Mitt Romney said that a Bush v. Clinton head-to-head would be too easy for the Democrats. Yet still, you and the super PAC supporting you continue to blanket the airwaves with cutting ads, not against Mrs. Clinton, but against your fellow Republicans, especially Senator Rubio. Do these attacks do more harm than good by targeting those candidates who appear to have the best chance of defeating Mrs. Clinton?
First of all, I've seen polls where I'm beating Hillary Clinton pretty regularly, and I believe I can because I have a proven record. A record of accomplishment, a record of cutting taxes, of shrinking the government, of reforming education, of challenging the status quo, eliminating career civil service protections, shrinking the government workforce by 11%, but leading the nation in job growth. That's the record of accomplishment that should be taken to Hillary Clinton, who has no record of accomplishment. So I'm confident if I win this nomination, I will aggressively go against her and beat her. As it relates to the super PACs, I have no control over that. And this is beanbag compared to what the Clinton hit machine is going to do to the Republican nominee. The simple fact is we all have a record. It'll all be scrutinized. There's give and take. It's called politics. And that's the way it is. I'm running hard, and I believe I'll be the Republican nominee, and I'll be the one best suited to beat Hillary Clinton, who should not be president of the United States.
Senator Rubio, first, before I ask you the question, any response to Governor Bush?
Well, I believe, and I know, that if Iowa helps make me the Republican nominee, I will defeat Hillary Clinton. Hillary doesn't want to run against me, but I cannot wait to run against her. And I cannot wait to earn the opportunity to do it, because she cannot be the President of the United States. She wants to put Barack Obama on the Supreme Court of the United States of America. She said that here in Iowa just 2 days ago. That would be a disaster for this country. So I hope and pray and cannot wait until this state and others give me an opportunity to serve this party as its nominee, because I will defeat Hillary Clinton.
Now, let's talk about electability, Senator. Time magazine once called you the Republican savior. Rush Limbaugh and others said you likely will be president someday. But if you look at the recent average of polls in your home state of Florida, you're in third, trailing Donald Trump by 24 points. If the people who know you best have you there, why should the rest of the country elect you?
Well, let me be clear about one thing. There's only one savior, and it's not me. It's Jesus Christ, who came down to earth and died for our sins. And I've always made that clear about that cover story. As far as the polls are concerned, Iowa, on Monday night, you're going to go to a caucus site, and you'll be the first Americans that vote in this election. You will be the first Americans that get to answer the fundamental question, what comes next for this country after 7 disastrous years of Barack Obama? And let me tell you what the answer better not be. It better not be Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. I think Bernie Sanders is a good candidate for president of Sweden. We don't want to be Sweden. We want to be the United States of America. And Hillary Clinton is disqualified from being the commander-in-chief of the United States. In fact, one of her first acts as president may very well be to pardon herself. Because Hillary Clinton stored classified information on her private server, and Hillary Clinton lied to the families of those 4 brave Americans who lost their life in Benghazi. And anyone who lies to the families of Americans who have died in the service of this country can never be Commander-in-Chief of the United States.
Thank you, Senator.
Governor Christie, 2 of your former top aides go on trial in May for fraud and conspiracy in the bridge case, the politically motivated closure of lanes to the George Washington Bridge. Another former aide, who has already pleaded guilty and will likely testify for the government, as you know, says that you knew about this whole deal. Can the GOP take the chance of nominating you with this scandal still out there, sir?
Sure, because there's been 3 different investigations and proven that I knew nothing. And the fact is that what I did do from the beginning, Chris, as soon as I found out about it, I fired the people who were responsible. And that's what you expect from a leader. And I'll tell you something else. I inherited a state in New Jersey that was downtrodden and beaten by liberal democratic policies, high taxation, high regulation. And this year in 2015, New Jersey has had the best year of job growth that our state has ever had in the last 15 years. That's because we put conservative policies in place. And I'll tell you one other thing. You know why the Republican Party will want to take a chance on me? Because they know that Hillary Clinton will never be prosecuted by this Justice Department, and they're going to want to put a former federal prosecutor on the stage to prosecute her next September. And there is no one on this stage better prepared to prosecute the case against Hillary Clinton than I am. I will be ready. I will take her on. And when I take her on, I guarantee you one thing. She will never get within 10 miles of the White House. The days for the Clintons in public housing are over.
Much more to come, including where the candidates stand on foreign policy. And once again, you can go to Google.com or open your Google search app and search Fox News Debate to vote on which candidate you think is winning the debate tonight. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's get back to the questions. Chris?
Gentlemen, almost 60% of Republican caucus goers identify themselves as evangelicals, so I'd like to spend a few minutes exploring social issues. Governor Kasich, you talk a good deal about your faith. In fact, you say it played a role in your decision to expand Medicaid, and you say that when you meet St. Peter at the pearly gates, he's going to ask what you did for the poor, not what you did to keep government small. Senator Cruz is on the opposite side of this issue from you, so does that mean that you're getting in and he isn't?
No, you know, Chris, here's what happened with Medicaid in my state. We took the growth of Medicaid from over 10% in my second budget to 2.5% without cutting off one person or cutting one benefit, because we innovated the government, and now mom and dad can stay in their own home rather than being forced into a nursing home. And then we decided we could bring $14 billion of our money. I mean, Washington doesn't have any money. It was our money. We brought them back to tend to the mentally ill, because I don't think they ought to live in prison or live under a bridge, to treat the drug addicted so they're not in and out of door policy out of the prisons, and to help the working poor so they don't live in emergency rooms. How's it worked? Well, we have treated the drug addicted in our prisons, and we released them into the community, and our recidivism rate is less than 20%. That's basically bordering on a miracle because of our great prison director. The mentally ill, they've been stepped on for too long in this society, and we are beginning to treat them. In terms of my faith, look, all I say is that when I study Scripture, I know that people who live in the shadows need to have a chance. But I'm not deciding that anybody's got to make these decisions the way that I do on the basis of what I do, but what I will tell you this: the time has come to stop ignoring the mentally ill in this country and begin to treat them and get them on their feet, along, of course, with treating the drug addicted. Because we don't want them in and out. We don't want them in and out of the prisons. Give people a chance. We talked about criminal justice reform. We've enacted it in our state. Look, the conservative message is economic growth, and along with economic growth goes opportunity for everybody in America. Everybody ought to have a chance to be able to rise to their God-given purpose. And that is what we have done in Ohio. We're running surpluses. We're up 400,000 jobs. And guess what? The formula is working. I'd suggest people take a look at it. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we had a case study on religious liberty just this last summer. A county clerk in Kentucky named Kim Davis refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples after the Supreme Court ruling, saying that it violated her religious beliefs. Governor Christie, you said that she must follow the law or be moved to another job that would be in keeping with her conscience. But some conservatives say that that violates her religious liberty.
Now, what I said, Chris, was that the law needs to be followed, and that someone in that office has to do their job. So if Ms. Davis wanted to step aside and get rid of her ability to be able to do that, there should be someone else in that office who it didn't violate their conscience so they could follow the law of the state of Kentucky. I never said that Ms. Davis should either lose her job or that she had to do it. But what I did say was that the person who came in for the license needed to get it. And so if there's someone in that organization, and it turns out there was, who was willing to be able to do that, that's what we should do. But just as importantly, and I agree with what John said, you know, we all have our own individual interpretations of our faith. And here's the problem with what's going on around the world. The radical Islamic jihadists, what they want to do is impose their faith upon each and every one of us. Every one of us. And the reason why this war against them is so important is that very basis of religious liberty. They want everyone in this country to follow their religious beliefs the way they do. They do not want us to exercise religious liberty. That's why, as Commander-in-Chief, I will take on ISIS, not only because it keeps us safe, but because it allows us to absolutely conduct our religious affairs the way we find in our heart and in our souls. As a Catholic, that's what I want to do, and no matter what your faith is, that's what I want you to be able to do.
Thank you, sir. Senator Rubio, during the last debate, you said Governor Christie had changed his position and his mind on gun control, on Common Core, and backing President Obama's nomination of Sotomayor to the Supreme Court. He said you're wrong on the facts and you can't, quote, slime your way to the White House. I assume in the last 2 weeks you've done some fact-checking. Do you want to take anything back?
Yeah, I would encourage people to go on my website, marcorubio.com, and we'll put all the facts up there so people can see it for themselves. But you've just asked a very fundamental question about the role of faith in our country, and I think this is an important question. I think if you do not understand that our Judeo-Christian values are one of the reasons why America is such a special country, you don't understand our history. You see, why are we one of the most generous people in the world? No, the most generous people in the world. Why do Americans contribute millions of dollars to charity? It is not because of the tax write-off. It is because in this nation, we are influenced by Judeo-Christian values that teach us to care for the less fortunate, to reach out to the needy, to love our neighbor. This is what's made our nation so special. And you should hope that our next president is someone that is influenced by their faith. Because if your faith causes you to care for the less fortunate, it is something you want to see in your public figures. And when I'm president, I can tell you this, my faith will not just influence the way I'll govern as president, it will influence the way I live my life. Because in the end, my goal is not simply to live on this earth for 80 years, but to live in eternity with my Creator. And I will always allow my faith to influence everything I do.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Paul, in May on the campaign trail, you said you didn't get into politics to fight about abortion. You said you were more concerned about the national debt. Your answer is to turn abortion back to the states the way it was before Roe v. Wade. Does that mean that if a liberal state, let's say, wants to make abortion legal, that you're okay with that? And what do you say to conservative voters who believe deeply that abortion is murder?
You know, I think abortion is always wrong. I've supported a variety of solutions, both state as well as federal. In fact, just last week I introduced the Life at Conception Act, which would say that the 14th Amendment would defend an individual, even in the womb. But I think on the broader question of religion and politics, you know, I think liberty itself requires a virtue, requires a virtuous people. In fact, Washington said that democracy requires a virtuous people. Os Guinness, the theologian, said that liberty requires restraint, but the only restraint consistent with liberty is self-restraint. There's a lot packed into that statement. But the bottom line is we must have virtue, we must have a religious bearing as a nation, but government's not always going to save us, and it's not always going to come from government. But if we don't know right and wrong, I think we have lost our way, I think we come unmoored, and I think without the religious foundation that guides us all, I think we have a great risk of going horribly in the wrong direction.
Sir, just 30 seconds to answer my specific... Just 30 seconds to answer my specific question. Do you favor the idea that abortion should be a states' rights issue, and if a liberal state wants to make it legal, that that's their choice? Yes or no?
No, both a federal and a state approach. I have said that we could leave it to the states, but I've also introduced a federal solution as well. So the federal solution would be the Life at Conception Act, which is an act that would federalize the issue. But I've also said for the most part, these issues would be left back to the states. So there might be an occasion if we did overturn Roe v. Wade nationalized the issue. If you actually had the court reverse Roe v. Wade, it would become a state issue once again. I think it would be better the less abortions we have, so the more states that we had that made abortion illegal, the better as far as trying to save and preserve lives.
Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, I'd like to ask a few questions about foreign policy broadly. Dr. Carson, many experts believe Russian leader Vladimir Putin has greater ideas, bigger designs for the region beyond Russia's actions inside Ukraine. Fast forward to February 2017, and it is President Carson and Russian ununiformed commandos the Estonian border, and they occupy a city in Estonia. Estonia, a member of NATO, essentially invokes Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all. What do you do?
Well, first of all, recognize that Vladimir Putin is an opportunist, and he's a bully, and we have to face him down. And I would, first of all, face him down in that whole region, the whole Baltic region. I think we need to put in some armored brigades there. We only have one or two. We need much more than that. We need to be doing military exercises in not only Estonia, but Latvia and Lithuania. They're terrified by the saber rattling. I think